All right, it is another episode of The Stack. This is the flesh and blood version. I have quite the guest. I have Yuki Lee Bender, Canada's own. Now, I got this here because if you know, and you must know me by now, Yuki, but I am such a champion of the country I'm from, and you are quite the representative. But welcome to the show, Yuki.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Flake. It's great to be here, and yeah, I've seen lots of your tweets online talking about how amazing Canada is, and you
I'm
a bit nervous for some of the questions that you might ask later, but we'll see.
Yeah, this is the thing, is a lot of people don't know that these statements that I'm going to be giving to whoever's on the stack, you don't see them ahead of time, and I like it that way, so we're going to keep it that way. So again, this is the stack. The way that we play is I'm going to be reading out 9 statements, and Yuki is going to say that either they resolve, as in, damn, Flake, I see that political science degree is coming in handy. That resolves. That is true. Or it fizzles, as in, nope, frostbite, you suck, go back to school. So that's just kind of, we're stretching that out. But that is the stack. Are you ready to play the stack, Yuki?
Yes, I am.
All right. First statement. FAB is the best deck in Classic Constructed.
I think I'm going to go with fizzles on this. I think that FAB is definitely going to be the deck to beat going into the Pro Tour. Like, you need to show up with a plan for FAB, and I think there's going to be a lot of FAB, and some of them might do okay. But I don't know that it's a de facto best deck in the way that Starvo or Chain were. I think that it is pretty vulnerable to disruption, and that there are quite a few tools and quite a few decks that are actually already pretty good against it. It's just a matter of what the metagame looks like and how those decks perform into the rest of the field, but I think FAB is a lot more exploitable than some of the other sort of top dogs that we've seen so far.
The reason I lead off with this is because at that fun little community tournament in Louisiana, the finals of the match was Handsome Dan versus Brian Basoko, a FAB mirror, and basically Brian was in the driver's seat, and then he said, all right, I just need you to not do 40 to me. And then Dan did 40 to him in one turn. It was one of those double-layered combat chains. Like, the typewriter got shoved to the other side, and you just continue. That's why I asked. But this leads in well to the next question, or the next statement being, Lexi will never be the problem, only the solution.
Oh, that's a really interesting one. I might go with resolves on that one. I think that given the way that Lexi's card pool works right now, she has a lot of tools, and I think that I truly believe that you can build her to beat just about any hero if that was like the only matchup you wanted to focus on. I think you could be favored into almost everything. But it's hard to cover kind of all your bases. Like, she does well in a narrow meta where there's a few decks that you can target, and when you have to kind of go wide and account for a wider field, it's quite hard. And because of that, I think I agree. Now, could that change if they print other just raw powerful cards like Rain Razor's level cards? Yeah, it could maybe change. But I think with the current card pool, that I tend to agree. Lexi is more of like a meta counter than she is a monster that just defines the format and warps everything around her.
All right, I'm going to ask you this one because I threw this one at Brendan Patrick, and I'm going to get it on the other side of the border now, which is Canada's 8 best players are better than USA's best 8 players. There's some heavy hitters here. I mean, let's be real. There's some really good players.
Who the top 8 from each region are. I think that I'm going to go with resolves, but I think it's really close. I'd say that Canada, I think given our population size, the amount of talent that we have is pretty incredible, and there's really a lot of very strong players for how small a population we are, even though we're big geographically. And I think that Canada is definitely in contention for one of the strongest regions in the world for FAB in terms of just number of top players. Whether or not we're exactly better than the US, I couldn't say for sure, but it wouldn't surprise me. I think that we're at worst about on par.
I gotta say, I mean, Canada's got about 10 to 12% of the population of the USA, and our top 8 is pretty damn fearsome. Next up, karaoke is the best way to celebrate after Pro Tour.
I think I'm gonna have to fizzle this one.
No!
I don't want to get dragged into anything. Karaoke always looks like a lot of fun, and I really admire people that can do it. But nobody wants to hear me sing, and I'm so self-conscious about singing. So it's never been my jam, but I totally respect that it's a lot of people's jam, and I think it's a really cool idea actually, and I hope that it happens. So I hope that the people that want to go to karaoke can go, and maybe I can just be an observer.
You kind of like sniffed out a little bit of the hidden intent there, which was like, I know that that you want people to go to this, and I know that this is something you want to do, but I will just like plant the seeds of doubt in your mind right now. Very, very adept. All right, next up is playing on camera is harder than playing amidst the field.
Resolves, but not for me personally, not by much. I find that the nerves aspect of it, like there is like a little bit of like you need to be on your game, but I find that the camera almost just encourages me to be like extra clear and extra thoughtful and step by step. So usually that's sort of just I don't know, my experience in playing on camera has been that I play fairly clean. That being said, sometimes the setup can be a little bit like I've been in chairs where the chair is not quite positioned exactly where you want, or like the tables at the Pro Tour were very hard and like picking up the cards off the table was actually kind of difficult. So sometimes that aspect can make it slightly uncomfortable. But yeah, I actually personally don't find camera matches that intimidating, although I know a lot of people do.
We will get a 5 intellect hero in 2023.
Ooh, I think I'm gonna go with fizzles. I hope it fizzles. I think that the 5 intellect will be very hard to balance, if you can even balance it at all. It would need some pretty hefty drawbacks on it. I think that like just anybody who's played Data Doll understands how much that 1 intellect matters. Like Data Doll's ability is incredibly powerful, but the 3 intellect just makes it way too much to overcome. And I think going up to 5, like it's 4 to 5 is like lower percentage wise, but I think that it's still a lot. And I think that even if you were playing like largely a generic card pool, I imagine the hero would be very, very strong. The extra card every turn is huge. I think that they will explore it eventually. I just don't know that it will be next year. I think it might be like further down the road.
All right, sticking to 2023, Living Legend format will have an official event in 2023.
I could see it maybe picking up by the end of the year. It sort of depends like how many heroes we get. I think like maybe if we get to the like 5+ mark, we might get to see it. But like right now, it's looking like the most likely candidates would be Chain, Starvo, and Prism, and then maybe whoever comes next, maybe, I don't know, Briar, Fi or something. But that meta looks a lot like the Pro Tour meta that we had before, and I think that it would make sense to have like enough heroes for it to feel like a different metagame than the one that we had previously. So I could see it happening. It kind of depends what heroes Living Legend, but I don't think it will be a major tournament. Like I would be shocked if it was like a Calling or a Pro Tour. I could maybe see it as like a side event for one of those though.
What I've found fascinating about it is that when you're trying to piece this together, you're looking like, okay, these are the 3 heroes, there's the first 2, and then now there's this, like the Prism is the next one threatening, and even just those 3, it seems like it's that kind of nice balanced triangle that has essentially dictated what a lot of these tournament metas have been. So even with 3, it's I think it's somewhat viable, albeit boring as hell. But as at the time where you want to create like a bigger event, I think that 6 might be that kind of magic number. Next one, selling PTIs is perfectly fine.
I think I'm going to go with resolves on this one. I think that ultimately there aren't that many PTIs in circulation. They're quite hard to get, and a lot of the players that have them want to hang on to them. And I think there's a number of players that can benefit a lot from selling PTIs. It could be people that just like want to go to a Pro Tour once, and I think just like having a way to do that is kind of cool. And I think that there's also players who are very good players, but they have no interest or time to travel. And I think having that as an upside for them is totally reasonable. I know that there's a lot of concerns around like tournament integrity, but I think ultimately like how well you do at the event is really the deciding factor, and how you got there is sort of second. Like doing well at a Pro Tour is hard no matter what, and maybe you can pay your way in and get to the Pro Tour without qualifying. But you're not going to do well at that event unless you're a very, very strong player to begin with. And ultimately, I think last time there was maybe like 10 to 15 people who brought invites. Like that's not really watering down the field, I don't think. Even if you assume that all those players are weaker, which I don't know if that's true. I think some of them might have been pretty good players. So overall, I don't think it's a huge problem.
Sometimes I think about it as the same type of way that people pay a lot of money to just kind of go on like Jeff Bezos' space adventure for 90 seconds of weightlessness and then they come back down to Earth. I feel like it's something similar to that where, you paid some money to have the thrill, but you're never actually going to succeed in that sense. But you never know. It might happen. Last one. An all white border hero weapon equipment set is more intimidating than an all cold foil hero weapon equipment set.
Ooh.
I have a preference here. I mean, as somebody, I grew up playing Star Wars CCG where a lot of the cards were white border. And so to me, it is just nostalgic and it's very comforting.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm also going to go with Fizzles because I grew up playing Magic the Gathering in the 90s. Not right at the start, but like in the 90s. And a lot of them were white border as well. So sort of same thing for me. The white border is just nostalgic. I actually don't mind them as much as a lot of people do. And yeah, it doesn't bother me, although I know it does kind of get some people going.
But in terms of intimidation factor, if you're up against somebody with all cold foil versus all white border,
I think it's the cold foil. Honestly, I've definitely had that feeling because when they have all the cold foil, I'm like, oh man, this person really likes their hero. I remember in the battle hardened attached to New Jersey, I was playing Oldham, and I am not a Guardian player. I've hardly played Guardian at all. And I was sitting down against a Bravo player, and he had all cold foiled out equipment. I went, oh boy, here we go. This guy clearly knows what he's doing, and I don't. And he just smushed me in the Guardian mirror. So I think there's some real intimidation factor there, especially if you're not comfortable in your hero. You're like, oh, this person probably knows what they're doing with their hero.
Lots of props to the term smushed, because I think it's a very you've heard of just dumpster, dusted me, crushed me, but smushed. Smushed that's the one I'm gonna ride through in the month of August. I'm gonna use smushed a lot in August. I just like it. Yuki, thank you so much for playing the stack. It was a true pleasure. And other than people seeing you crushing tournaments, smushing tournaments, where can people find more Yuki content? You're writing a lot, you're tweeting, obviously, but where can people get more Yuki content?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Yuki Lee Bender. You can also find my articles on redriotgames.ca. I have a few on FAB TCG recently as well, but it's sort of just, I get contracted here and there. It's not a regular writing gig with them. I'm also starting a podcast called On the Bobble, which will be focused on Limited primarily. We actually just recorded our first episode last night. We'll see how it goes. It may have been a little bit rough, but I'm sure as we get some more episodes under our belt, it will get better. So
On the Bobble is the new podcast coming out with Yuki Lee Bender.
On the Bobble, and it will be on YouTube and Spotify, and we'll probably add more platforms soon.
Everybody's first few episodes are nobody smushes it in the first few bits. It takes a little bit of time to get your sea legs going, but I do wish you the best with that endeavor. If there's anything that I could do to help out, give my poor takes on Limited, I'd be happy to do so. But Yuki, thank you again for playing the stack, and thank you all for watching and listening. And don't forget, you're not losing if you're learning, so keep playing the game. We'll catch you next time on The Stack. The Stack is brought to you by Realm Gaming in Mansfield, Ohio, a wonderful place to get your flesh and blood fix, but not just that, they also specialize in Magic the Gathering and Pokemon. So if that's where you need to be to get your card fix, that's the place you want to go. RealmGamingNetwork.com. Keith and Jacob, who run the place, are developing a wonderful community of fun and inclusivity. So if you want to get a good fix on cards or just play the game, if you're in the Ohio region, you want to go to Realm Gaming. RealmGamingNetwork.com.